Oh, there we go. So, welcome everyone who joined for our 34th WP Ninjas meeting it's not of this year, but we started a while ago. Today we have Raphael with us, who will further introduce himself later on. So, welcome, Raphael, all the way from Germany, but because it's virtual, you're actually quite nearby at the moment. First of all, we want to thank our sponsors. Without the sponsors, we cannot do these meetings. So big thanks to them. You can reach us on social media. So please use the hashtag WPNinjasNL if you want to mention us in one of your tweets. You can find us on Meetup, Facebook, YouTube, everywhere. We're not on TikTok yet, but Eric promised us to actually dive into TikTok and make sure that we can offer you some nice dance from the ninja dance from the workplace ninjas in the Netherlands as well. So that will be done as well. Hey, we have some upcoming webinars coming up. So in 2 weeks, we'll have Sven Antonissen about Teams calling, hosted by Frans and Ronnie for the live Ask Us Anything. 2 weeks after, we will have our next Tuesday webinar with Victor Hedberg about temporary access pass. Will be interesting as well. And we'll soon announce live Ask Us Anything number 14 already. So I assume that Ronnie and Frans are busy with finding an appropriate speaker for that one as well. So you're welcome to join us. We try to plan quite in advance so that you at least can reserve that time spot in your agenda as well. If you want to speak at one of our sessions, feel free to submit a session proposal at Sessionize. The link has changed, so it's now WPNinjasNL, which you can use. Submit your session there, and we will follow up with you as well. Which brings us to our speaker, Raphael. Thanks for joining us, and the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you very much for this warm welcome and introduction to this meetup, and I'm very happy to be here and speaking here. And what pandemic makes you available to have Teams sessions around the world, and now from Germany, and with this amazing topic. And I will share my screen if it's okay for you.
Yeah,
I have your picture or your marketing banner for my first slide. Cool. So that everyone who joins now in this meeting see where he or she will have some informations now. Okay, let's talk about compliance. And this is one of my favorite topics, so I'm very happy that we can talk about compliance in the next 2 hours or in the next 90 minutes. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. And yes, we will talk also out of German and also Netherlands as a European perspective. And we will have a compliance workthrough to tools, options, and also a little bit to contracts and to data centers and all of this. But I think let's start and let's have a little bit fun in the next time. So last for you, if you have any questions, raise your hand, type into the chat. I will open the chat window, and Candice and the organizer will have also view on the chat. So let's start, and let's start with the compliance hero walkthrough. And at first, I will introduce me. If someone don't take Bing or Google or LinkedIn to have a view who is the speaker, I will introduce myself. My name is Raphael Köllner. I'm study law in Cologne. It's near the Netherlands in Germany, with the main topics IT law, cloud law, media law, and copyright law, all of this. And after I study law, I go to Microsoft and working for Microsoft and also for different Microsoft partners, and working with for Microsoft partners and with Microsoft partners. And yeah, in my time at Microsoft, I was in the developer experience department, which had the availability and the option to play with all the new things. And then 2016, I left Microsoft and go to basically to another company and Microsoft partner, and switching from law company to Microsoft partner. And yeah, my last work was at BDO, which is also like PwC and Ernst & Young, one of the economy and data, and all of this one of the biggest companies around the world, which in the part of economy and also consulting in law and also in digital in IT questions, for example. But I leave BDO to the next month, or in this time I will leaving BDO, and I have my own law company and my own company which make IT and compliance consulting. So compliance is not only my favorite topic, yes, it's my favorite topic in my work time, in my private time, and when I don't talk about compliance, I'm playing guitar or traveling or go to the Netherlands from Cologne. It's very near. Go to the beach, or I'm also a community leader and MVP for Office Apps and Services, and one of the 110 Microsoft regional directors, MVP for Office Apps and Services and Windows Insider, the Windows 10, Windows 11, and regional director also for the area of compliance here in Germany, or better in Europe. So yeah, hopefully I can see you also in my communities. And that's me. If you have any questions, feel free to send me an email. Go to Twitter, @RR_Köllner, or go to my websites like Compliance Insider, where I share all of the community content. So yes, I'm happy to be here. If you have any questions, feel free. So what we want to do in the next minutes, or in the next 90 minutes or the next 2 hours, I have a short introduction to compliance. What is compliance? Why we talk about compliance? Why it's important to talk about these areas? What is a part of compliance? For example, GDPR. What is the challenge in addition to deployment, and what are the things we have to talk about it? What are the tools we make it work through today? So we have the main part in tools and how we start, and what are the compliance tools in Microsoft 365, and how we can use it, and how we can start, and all of this. And at the end, and between the captures, we have a Q&A. But yeah, you can ask me every time between the sessions. So let's start a little bit with introduction, and at first with the learning objects. Learning object of the session is: what is compliance? What means compliance? What are compliance tools and processes? Which processes you need to create? How we can start and work through, for example, DLP, information protection, retention policies, retention labels, and also privacy mentioned Privia, which is really new. And also some of these tools like Compliance Manager and also contracts and all of this. So we had a very cool overview in these 2 hours. Normally, it's a project of 1 year and a project which start every year at the beginning, and we have to have a look at every compliance rules and legal decisions and all of this, but everything is fine. We go forward. If you don't have any questions, and we start with the question: what is compliance? And compliance is one of these topics. Yeah, we have email with Exchange Online, we have storage of data, we have governance, we have information protection things. And what is compliance in this? When you have a look at compliance in the dictionary, it means the proper compliance, or compliance with the rules, or compliance with the rules. It's just very funny. So for me, compliance, and when you have a look in the dictionary, is to be to fulfill the rules. You have rules in law, for example, you have judgment, you have decisions, and judgment, you have international rules, you have contracts, and all of this you want to fulfill. You have special certificates like ISO certificates, or in Germany we have, for example, special tax certificates and special tax rules, and we want to be compliant with this. And for me, and this is what I do every time, is when we or when my partners or when Microsoft partners implement software, I'm the guy who talk about compliance and who implement the software in connection to the rules and fulfill, in the same time, we fulfill all of the rules or the most of the rules and handle the rules, administration the rules, and use the IT system in the minimum of risk. And when you have a look at it and you see compliance in different chapters, for example, in medicine and psychology, in law, okay, I have to translate, but I know you know a little bit of German. So in law or in IT compliance, we have tax compliance, we have cross compliance. So we have different compliance views. And this is for me also very interesting that you can see, okay, I'm be compliant with everything. No, you need a process, you need a structure, you need tools, and you need guys, and hopefully you have a team. They take care about compliance. And when we have a deeper look and see, okay, what does compliance include? And when we have a look at it, and I collected all of this in one of my databases, and we have hundreds of compliance guidelines. We have compliance guidelines, and we'll talk a little bit later, in the Netherlands, we have in Germany, we have in China, in Japan, we have in Russia, we have in USA, we have different compliance rules, different, for example, also timelines for data retention, for example. We have different legal decisions, different differences in law, and all of this. And it's very, very interesting that I don't find one partner who can give me all compliance rules over the world. So I found 6 different partners worldwide. They give me compliance rules in different areas or for different countries, for example, for Germany, for Australia, for Japan and USA, but the other partner give me the rules for Russia. So this can be a very good part for you and your companies to create a compliance service to help the people, and that's help the companies and the compliance officer to be compliant in their company. And that's the same what my company also do. We create these compliance administration and help the companies in Microsoft tools like Office 365. And we have a deeper look into some important certificates. This is also a part of compliance. That means, okay, we have international standards, you know, ISO certificates, SOC, FISMA, and all of this. And we have also industry certificates like TISAX. That's for example, VW, Porsche, BMW, and all of the car builder. That's the TISAX industry standard. We have industry standard, for example, in Germany, it calls for BaFin. That's for BITE for finance institutes and BITE for the insurance institutes. And we have, for example, in UK and also in the Netherlands, I hope you know the standard NEN 7510. That's, I have a look. And also regional standard like BEER 2012 in the Netherlands. And we have also, for example, in Germany, we have the C5 standard from our BSE, from our national authority for IT security. And we have also standards like EU standard model clauses, EU model clauses. I hope every of you knows what it is. I will talk a little bit later about it. And we have HIPAA in the USA and all of this. So we have a lot of standards. And when we have a look worldwide, I have only an interview and overview about these standards. You have different standards, and you have standards worldwide, and you have different standards in every region. So it is very interesting when we have a look here, for example, in the Netherlands. This is one of the slides. We have a look. Okay, we have BEER, we have CSR, we have ENISA, we have also EU model clauses, EU GDPR. Yeah, that's the EU one. We have EU Privacy Shield. Yes, Privacy Shield is closed with Schrems 2 judgment of the EU court, but in the contracts we need it for Swiss and for UK. So EU Privacy Shield is also alive in the Microsoft contracts. And we have ISO certifications and SOC and all of this. That is very interesting. We have some some of these rules are from the European Union. Some of these rules are special from the Netherlands. So we have different rules worldwide. And when we have a look, I have a database with around 3,500, 3,800 different rules worldwide. And it's very interesting that are really different. And when we talk about the European Union said, okay, if you handle personal data, you have GDPR and you have really closed rules we have to implement, then someone of you talk about, for example, Turkey. So the KKK. Does someone knows something about the KKK? No, or? You raise your hand, please. If you said, okay, I know the KKK. Okay, no customer or your own company in connection with Turkey? No, okay. I will explain you. The KKK is the new data privacy or the new GDPR for this country, and it's a little bit like Russia and China, but it's very close. So if you have personal data for people or for citizen for Turkey, it's only allowed to proceed in the country, so in the border of the country. And do we have data centers of Microsoft in this country? No. So we have a challenge and we need to find solutions to be compliant with these national rules. So one of these examples, is hopefully one of the interesting things. So often you have also, for example, Power BI connectors, which proceed data in other countries. You have tools in Microsoft 365 like Sway or Bing services like optional connected services, Bing services, which are only proceed in USA. And then it's very interesting that Microsoft has a EU boundary program. Every one of you heard about the EU boundary program from Microsoft last year or the update in December. No one? Raise your hand, please. Hopefully, Kenneth. Hopefully.
Yeah, well, not really, but you have to fill me in on the specifics because I heard it, but I'm not really certain what it means.
Yeah, that's a really good question. The EU boundary program is a program from Microsoft. It starts with the first judgment of the EU court, so the Schrems 1 judgment. It's at the basic, and this slide is a very good one to explain. So we have the proceeding of personal data with GDPR. It's allowed in the member states of European Union. So Netherlands, Germany, Poland, Italy, Spain, Belgium, France. It's okay. You can proceed personal data. You don't need any other regulations or rules. You don't need special contracts or additional resources or additional security measures or like this. You don't need it. You can proceed all of this data. And then you have a second category, which means these are countries like, and I have a pen here, and I can give you. I can paint here, and you have a second category like Canada, for example. Here's Canada. Like Canada, or now we have South Korea, or we have countries like also Switzerland is here. It's here, everything. And these countries are not a membership of the European Union, but these countries have the same level of data privacy, the same niveau, the same level of data privacy in these countries. So with these countries also allowed to proceed personal data from European citizen, and you don't need this, you have the same level like the member states. You don't need to have additional safe contracts, for example, or you don't need EU model clauses or like this. And then you have a third one, and this is the countries which don't be a part of the first category, so no member states, and no second categories, so they don't have a special contract with the EU and have the same data privacy same data privacy level. And these are, for example, USA. And yes, Office 365 is the US US provider with Microsoft, and some of these data are proceed to the US. For example, diagnostic data, telemetry, and all of this, which is pseudonymized. So yeah, all of this. And if Microsoft wants to proceed personal data of of citizens in the European Union, like Netherlands or Germany, they need a special contract. They need, at first, they have the EU Privacy Shield. The Privacy Shield is gone. So we have the EU model clauses. And with the EU model clauses, we need additional safeguards. And we need these contracts. And we need some special technical and organizatory measures, which rise up the level of data privacy in the US to the same level of European Union. In the theoretically. So, and the EU boundary program will help here in the thing that Microsoft said, okay, we have tools and we have, there's also a PowerShell script where you can extract where your data will be are and will be proceed, where is the proceeding of the data and where's the storage of the data. And in some of the Microsoft tools, for example, Microsoft Teams, the data will be stored in a region and will be proceed in another region. For example, with the translator. We have the translator functionality in Teams, and the translator functionality in Teams will be stored the data in North Europe, so in the Amsterdam region, in the Amsterdam data center, but it will be proceed also in the Amsterdam region. But sometimes when you store a file or you copy the text to a Word document and store it in the storage of Microsoft Teams, so in SharePoint Online, it will be stored when it will be a German tenant, it will be stored in Frankfurt. So these are very interesting things that you have to know, that a lot of these features have different regions of proceeding and storing the data. And with EU boundary program, they want to move all of the information or all of the proceeding and storing of customer data into the border of European Union. So no UK anymore. So in the border of European Union, and will to start to, for example, proceed sway, or sway is not really clear. So I will say to proceed everything of forms, including the sharing sites, into the European Union. So bring it into, and here Dublin, bring it into Dublin and Amsterdam. So Microsoft is moving the tools and the proceeding to Europe, to Dublin and to Amsterdam, so that the customer data will only proceed in the European Union, in the border of the European Union. And this is the EU boundary program, and I make it here, EU boundary program. But it's very interesting when you talked about the EU boundary program, what is very famous for every data privacy officer and compliance officer. So we don't have data transfer in the USA. So for this data, we don't need EU model clauses or like this. So we can proceed everything in Europe. That will be the best option for everyone. And it's very interesting here that Microsoft don't announce a list of tools they will move to Europe. But when you have a look in the last months and also in the Microsoft 365 Admin Center, you see, for example, the sharing side of forms will be moved. Sway hopefully will be moved. I have a question to Microsoft, hopefully will be moved to Europe. The most of the core tools will be moved to Europe. And a very interesting question is, what do you think what happened with Bing and the Bing services? Will the Bing services will be moved to Europe? What do you think?
I would assume yes.
Yeah. You will say yes. Okay.
Yeah.
The other ones you can type in the chat or raise your hands. It will be not in the recording. So the third one say no. We have one yes and one no. Someone is writing. Okay. Yes. Okay. No and yes and no. Okay. Is that being used? Yeah, that's a good one. Is that being used? So do you use Bing services like the old translator one, or some optional optional connected experience it called? The most are Bing service, or no, most of them are Bing service. So the question, will be Bing a part of the EU boundary program? And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of you are right. No. So we have the EU boundary program, and Microsoft said we will move the functionality in storing and proceeding customer data to Europe, but Bing, no. So I have a really hard discussion with Microsoft about it, but Bing services will be moved to Europe. This hopefully not the same for Sway. So I'm waiting also for a list of products they will move to Europe. So if you're using Sway, for example, today, there will be proceed in the USA, the same like Bing services and also LinkedIn services will be moved to Europe. So LinkedIn services are, for example, the optional connected service to create your CV automatically. This is also Bing services. So all of these services are not shifted to Europe. So this is a EU boundary program, the main part, and the second part of the EU boundary program is to move the support to Europe. So we will see also in Amsterdam, hopefully, this is my last information, that we will have a new support center in Europe, and the support resources will be bringing together so that we have the first and second contact only in Europe for European customers, and then more jobs. Thank you. And then the second one is when we need a US engineer, for example, in cybersecurity topics or in very special topics, they will use in the future Windows 365 or Azure Virtual Desktop hosted in Amsterdam and also hosted in Dublin. So it will be only a remote access to a virtual machine, and the customer data and also stay in Europe, and only will be a remote desktop connection to Europe. At the end, it's a very cool question for a lawyer and a cool law discussion if this remote connection is the same like a transfer or not, or it's a legal solution for these things that you don't transfer data to US. But we will see it in the future. In the future means the EU boundary program will be proceed to the end of this year. So in 2023, we will have the most of the tools which proceed customer data only in Europe, including the support process and including the first steps of cybersecurity. Only telemetry and diagnostic data, semi-anonymized, will be transferred to US, and Bing services and cybersecurity special things will be moved to Redmond, to the security center, and some access via remote desktop to Azure Virtual Desktop on Windows 365 via the Windows engineering. Okay. And we hope Ireland don't leave the EU, and maybe UK will come back, hopefully, then we don't have so much trouble here. Okay, this is the EU boundary program, and this is a certificate and all of this. I think that's enough. If you have any questions, feel free to ask, because I have some more slides, and then we will go to the demonstration and make a walkthrough. This is the introduction, a little bit more introduction, but I think the information about EU boundary program, all of this are very interesting for you. So security and compliance at Microsoft 365. If you want to group all of this, and it's more, for me, it's more compliance, Microsoft is putting the security things like threat protection, defender, and all of this into the security center. But security without compliance is not really working, and compliance without security is also not really working. For example, Article 32 of GDPR is also a very good technical connection to security and compliance, bringing these topics together. But out of a compliance view, we have identity and access management. So user accounts, access, we have access review, I will show you today. This is very interesting, and all of these new functionality functionality in the identity and access area. We have information protection or protecting of personal informations, also holding your NDA, protecting your business information, all of this, Microsoft information protection, information barriers, and all of this. And on the side, we have also Discover and React. This is a part of now Defender, part, and also Azure Sentinel, SOCSIEM, and also some interesting warnings and notifications, and all of these MCAS, or no, Defender for Cloud Apps is also part of this area. And then we have the governance ones with retention policies and labels, and also government things in Microsoft Teams with Microsoft Information Protection, with information protection on containers like SharePoint sites. We have also a lot of third-party tools here in the governance area, from Powell, from Solution to Share, and we have also, I know, also the Netherlands, there are companies, they're giving governance tools for Microsoft Teams, or you can buy governance tools for Microsoft Teams and for lifecycle things, and DMS systems for lifecycle of documents. It's very interesting, based on SharePoint, all of this. And then we have the administration risks and management risk of 365. So we can bring all of these topics in these areas to handle it and to bring it into a compliance topic and compliance overview. And I take two of these topics out in my presentation, so it's not too long today, and go to the faster to the demonstration. We have the advanced governance overview. We have to evaluate the structure of data, and that is very interesting if you are a Microsoft partner. I don't know if you are or a Microsoft partner. If you're a Microsoft partner, we have for this evaluate, we have a Microsoft Partner Accelerator Workshop. So you can go to your customer and say, okay, we have accelerator workshops. Microsoft pay for this workshop, and we can have a IP scanner, and we have the tracking and tracing for data in your company, and we have a look if you have high sensitivity data, where are your data, which data are high sensitive, which data have personal data, which data are business data or confidential business data, and all of this. So the first step is to evaluate. For evaluation, the best thing you have a data classification. Hopefully every one of you, like me, have a data classification. Typically open, internal, secret, and high secret or confidential. These are the typical steps in data classification. And then when you have to evaluate and when you have a data classification, we go forward and we have, that means protect. Okay, protect and manage. We have the information protection with encryption, watermark, header, and all of this. Hopefully you know it. This is one of the first steps everyone you do to handle your data. And then we have the other side here, the governance part. Here's the governance part. I have to create a new slide here. Governance part that you can see here. Here must be, here is the word governance with archiving, retention. So everything you have a part in retention policy, retention labels, records, event-based, and all of this. And the next one is respond and ensure. So you have to identify the sensitive data with sensitive data, for example. Yeah, you have sensitive data categories, and you can create your own categories. We will have a walkthrough today also in this area. Policy violence and reaction to these policy violence, data analytics, proactive alerts, supervision, audit logs, and you have communication compliance, insider risk management, all of these. To have an advanced, we have advanced governance here, and then you have with Defender and Endpoint Defender, it's also part of security. You go from devices to apps to cloud services to local storages, and also to third party and ISVs. And when you have an overview of all of this, you have a governance, you have a compliance, you have a security, and there are also a lot of big security maps and roadmaps you can find at Microsoft. I can give you the AKA link. It's mainly, I think it's aka.ms MCSA, and I post it in the chat a little bit later, and then I will post it in the chat, and there you can find all of these very cool structures and best practices of security, governance, and also data privacy. So Microsoft is working a lot in this area. So this is introduction, or a little bit longer introduction with EU data boundary discussion or introduction. Though let's have a beginning. And the first thing is every time when I begin with start with compliance in a company, I need a team. And the best team and the best team of it is a combination of data privacy officer, have a compliance officer, a legal department, human resources, audit and revision, and also the working councils. In Germany, we have every time we have a working council also, and the team make the compliance team, and the compliance team together helps you or helps a company to be compliant to different rules, to different laws, to different regulations. And when we have a look, the most of it, and you see it on the right side, on the topic side, the most is IT security, and then IT compliance, privacy compliance, or data privacy. These are the topics, and it's very interesting. That was a question the survey I make in the last 2 years. I make also a survey with Microsoft together, and these are the answers of this survey, which these compliance team, which information, which topic they have to handle. And for me, yeah, is it from the most is security compliance, privacy, identity access, and then data compliance and all of this. So you have to handle all of these topics. And the first thing is, and we make a work through now, we start with tools and all of this. The first thing is, yeah, we can start with the compliance manager. And I think stop the presentation and let's start a little bit with have a look into the tools. And when you start with compliance in Microsoft 365, you start in the best way with a team. And you have a compliance officer in your company. He or she take care about compliance or compliance topics. We know a little bit about compliance topics. And when we start, for example, this is my demo environment. You start in my area or my perspective with the Microsoft 365 Compliance Center, and you start with a compliance manager. Often you can connect your own tools with the compliance manager, or you have connection option, the connecting availabilities like with OneTrust. You can combine with the compliance manager, combine with privacy management, privacy manager, and all of this. So is a compliance manager a great way to start? Yes, it's a great way to start. Is it the only tool you need? No. It's a compliance manager. When you handle the compliance manager and working with the compliance manager, then you are compliant with most of the rules? No. It's only a beginning. And you need the compliance manager, yes, but you need also your own process. And often for some areas, for example, data privacy, you can add OneTrust to the compliance manager, or you have to create your own assessments. So it's very interesting when you have a look at these compliance manager. For me, it's a good start. And when we start with it, we see, okay, how good is your company? Yes, you have dots and points which change every week, every month, and you have Microsoft and you have your points. And yes, Microsoft points are every time 100%. That's a little bit of feedback also to Microsoft. No, Microsoft is not 100% compliant. We all know this. But in this manager, Microsoft is 100% compliant. And when the number of 12,000 in the beginning, it was 8,000, then 10,000, now 12,000, is every time Microsoft fulfill every rule. Every rule, the team who makes a compliance manager implemented, and yes, Microsoft fulfill all of the rules which the compliance team of Microsoft is implemented in the compliance manager. So you have a view on these numbers, and this is the point you have, and you have a little bit of view what other companies do and what are the lists or the points of other companies. But this is yours, and how you can earn points or how you can be more compliant. For me it's a good system. You have, for example, refresh authentications, and when you configure it, you get 27 points. So you have a little bit of auditing and reviewing compliance in your Microsoft 365 assessment. But for me, I miss the risk-based thing here in this compliance manager. Hopefully it will be created, will be added. I'm talking to the compliance manager team that they have a more risk-based part in this compliance manager, but they started with technical auditorial measures here. And when you have a look, you have all of these improvement actions. And in the best way, you have a compliance manager who handle it, and then you can bring these, for example, this one, you bring these action to people in your company. You have to fulfill it or have to think about it and create a process. And when it will loading, yeah, you see here who's managed by which one, which the part of these of these rule of these this rule and standard, which is the standard regulation. It's based on which is data protection, for example, encryption, all of this. So this is a very good start to take a look into compliance. And compliance manager is also a part that you can handle your documents, that you document your compliance rules and your proceeds and your information. So for me, yeah, it's a good start. And here you see you can attach documents, Word document, PowerPoint, all of this. You can document your testing details. You see which rule will be, or which organizational measures and technical measures will be fulfilled about this topic. And you see the implementation and can document the implementation too. For example, with restrict access to private keys and use your own key, for example, is also a very cool discussion. You can work together with Thales, for example, or with Entrust, with HashiCorp Group to bring your own keys to Microsoft, to have a customer key for Exchange, SharePoint, or Teams. So the key discussion is one of the biggest ones also in the compliance manager. And you see here nearby to these actions and solutions, you have also assessment or solutions here. You have also assessments, and you see here in audit, I have in this demo environment 0 points. So here you see the default one when you start with a new tenant. You see here you have some points or some actions fulfilled. When you go here and you have no knowledge about compliance and start here and fulfill all of the points, it's better than you do nothing. So yeah, it's a good start. You have to add something. And now it will be really interesting. You have the assessments. You have basic assessment will be a part of your license. And you can add assessments in your premium license. So for the compliance managers, you have a premium one. So you see here, you have some and more will be included. For example, data protection baseline in connection with GDPR. You have NIST, you have also ISO certificate, FedRAMP is also included. GDPR, you see some of these regulations you can remember hopefully on my slide, on my worldwide slide. So you have some international and also some European rules, and then it will be interesting. And currently we have 696 premium assessments. So you can book your assessment here. It costs around 2,500 to 3,500, 5,000 for every of these assessment. And you can book this assessment and can then make this assessment to fulfill the compliance rules in your Microsoft 365 environment. And for me, and this is very, very interesting, that you have your Belgium. Well, we can have a look for Belgium. You have here the Act on protection of natural persons with regards of processing of personal data. So it's data privacy one. You have also Netherlands, and let's have a look. We can search, so I don't need to Netherlands. Oh. I don't write it correctly. The search is not the best one. Is it under Netherlands? I will have a look. I don't test it before. I wrote it wrong.
Maybe on the Dutch, Raphael.
Maybe Dutch. Let's have a look. That's strange.
Yeah.
That's strange. The search is really strange. So go back and go forward. And then we need to scroll. So for me, I every time scroll. It's alphabetic, but Kentucky, L-M-N-N-N, NIST, New Hampshire, New Mexico, I saw it. Yeah. So, no, that's strange. I saw it last week. I talked with
Maybe
a
it's
customer.
the Netherlands.
Maybe here, Germany, but the Netherlands, okay. But now I have a look. We want to find it, or I want to find it. CD, Dutch? No, it's not Dutch. CD. That's crazy. We need to give feedback that we can't find it really fast. Okay, the Netherlands. So T. Oh. That's not a good example for this user group. Let's have a look. So Belgium was very fast. So who are the guys living near Belgium? But here, no. So that's crazy. I saw last week Netherlands. Holland, no. That's crazy. I saw 3 regulations. So I put these regulations or this assessment into my world map. So, but sorry, in this moment, I don't find anything. There was Turkey, the KKK. I told you about the KKK. So this is a premium assessment, but strange, but very strange. Nigeria, North. No, that's strange. But maybe we can find. I will double check with the product group. Yeah, last week I found it under Netherlands, but here nothing. Joint Commission, no. But normally you find for the regional standards, the international standard, and also more and more industry standards, also TISAX will be found also here, but I don't find Netherlands or Dutch or Holland. That's strange. That's very, very strange. But yeah, I will ask the product group too and give you feedback why we don't find the Netherlands. Very strange, very strange, very strange. Okay. But it's your chance to create your own assessment. No, it's not. You can create your own template. That's really cool. You can download an example and create your own template. So if we can't find anything for Netherlands, we can go to the next week and create our own assessments for special Netherlands regulatory in your country, and you can create your templates. And it's very cool because you can sell your templates, and that's what I do too for special social data or TSAX or like this. I create my own templates and sell it to other customers, and I create only one time and sell it to a lot of customers. So that is a good example. So you can download and upload your own template, and you can extend the Microsoft templates. For example, for GDPR, I extend also the Microsoft template. So this is a good part to start, or for a smaller company, that's enough to take the compliance manager to find the regulations, to find the actions, what you have to do. This is very thing, and this is also a challenge. You have all of these compliance rules. At the first time, you need a database, and this is a database with all of the compliance rules you have to fulfill. You have to know it, and then you need concrete and exact actions what you have to do to fulfill. And this is what I do in these community sessions. I do also in my work every day to make a translation from regulatory to what I have to do. And this is a little bit more what the most lawyers do. The most lawyers said it can be you have to do this, but what is a concrete action? So for me, I define concrete actions, what we have to do to fulfill which risk, and this is what I miss in the compliance manager. I need the concrete risk, and which is the technical alternative measure to minimize these risk, and also yes, to fulfill NIST and data privacy, all of this. But this risk-based solution, it's I'm missing in the compliance manager, but yeah, we will see it. So we have some chats. I will have a short look. It's important to keep an eye on compliance. Yes, it's often asked to help. Yeah, finance, RL, legal, or sales. Yeah, often it's HR. Very often they ask me, or the accounting team, which handle all of the invoices and all of this, ask me. Yeah. So, Andrew, thank you very much for your comment. So, compliance manager is a good start. The good start for you is at first you have a team, you have a compliance manager, or you hire a company which helps you with your compliance, because these are the compliance topics are the topics every IT project will be stopped. So I'm in my career of now 15 years in this area, in these topics, and 20 years of working in the law area. The law and also the compliance regulations are these topics which stop a project. So often you can say, okay, it's technical, it's not possible, it's not, this function is not there today, but this function are available on the roadmap in the next 3 months. But in compliance is you fulfill the compliance or you don't fulfill the compliance. Very good example for this is, and I go back to my slides because this example is what I love, and this is the example of contracts. For every Microsoft, for every Microsoft software you want to use in your company, you need a contract. So you have different contracts, and this is a picture, this is my picture, of an enterprise agreement. So of a company which have more than 500 people or 500 FTEs, and they are working and they have an enterprise agreement. And in this enterprise agreement, you have different contracts. For example, the data privacy agreement, the DPA, aka.ms/DPA. There you find the newest ones, and with Schrems 1, Schrems 2, all of the GDPR regulations, and also the your Ministry of Justice have a good DPA about SharePoint and OneDrive. It announced yesterday, and your Ministry of Justice started with Microsoft 3 or 4 years ago, a hard discussion about new GPOs and stopping transferring and more transparency. So yes, it starts with the Ministry of Justice and also with the legal cases and also with customers and all of this. The result is a new DPA, and the new DPA, I sent you aka.ms/DPA. That is a link where you can find the DPA contract or the attachment to the product terms. And the DPA, there's a part of this DPA is the EU model clauses between Microsoft Ireland and Microsoft Corporation. And this is what I say, which can stop an IT project in this year. You need the new EU model clauses. The EU Commission said, okay, you have a time period to the end of this year, to September, 15 months, because at September 2022, 15 months before the new EU model clauses are announced. So for old contracts, you have this time period to get the new EU model clauses. For the new contracts, so you get a new Microsoft 365 environment, you need the EU model clause, the newest ones today. And with the DPA, you get the newest. With the DPA from the 15th September 2021, you get the new EU model clauses. So if you don't have the new EU model clauses, it's not allowed to proceed data in Microsoft 365. So if you don't fulfill the compliance regulation, data privacy, GDPR with the new EU model clauses, it's not allowed to proceed data and to use Microsoft 365. So compliance or the most of the compliance topics, and you don't fulfill it, you have a higher risk, and mostly like these EU model clauses story, it's not allowed to use. So it's very, 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 very interesting thing that you need money in your Microsoft 365 or Microsoft Azure project or your cloud project for compliance. for adoption, for IT and compliance. And yes, also compliance is not only an IT project, it's also a regulation paperwork project and an adoption project too. So it's very, very interesting that Netherlands and and Germany are a lot of great parts that we have these GDPR rules, that we have the DPA, that we have new GPOs. So your Ministry of Justice and also the Ministry of Justice of Belgium, also the national authorities of data privacy in Germany, also from Bavaria and Baden-Württemberg, are one of the main parts they discussed and had hard discussion with Microsoft. Also me, I have also a lot of hard discussion with Microsoft, for example, on contract solutions in Microsoft Teams and consent solution in Microsoft Teams for recording and all of this, that we get these optionals in Microsoft 365 we need to configure. So, but all of these, we need the contracts, we need to configure, and we need also additional contracts. For example, the M433 or M158, all of this, to start with proceeding data in Microsoft 365. And this is also a part, this is not fulfilled in the compliance manager. So you don't have a contract handling system here. I asked Microsoft, why not? Yeah, contract handling and contract administration is a part of the customer. Or your IT counselor or your compliance manager or your department which make all of the selling and the sales department or of the all of this, you have to make your own process. Often it's the compliance manager and the data privacy officer who have the information about the contracts and take care about it, that you have every time the newest contracts. I don't want to talk about more about the contracts. That is a separate session, but it's very interesting that, for example, when you don't have the newest DPA at the end of the year, it's forbidden to use Microsoft 365 out of the data privacy rules, out of the GDPR European, for all European companies and all companies that have customers in the European Union. So very, very interesting that only one regulation or one compliance rule can kill Microsoft, can kill IT project, or can kill the usage of Microsoft 365. So we have these compliance manager, or we have a compliance manager like OneTrust in addition, and also OTRIS manager, or all of this. Or you can use, and this is a hint for me, start with an Excel file. An Excel file at first is the best one. Everyone can edit it. You can secure it with the Microsoft information protection level. You can put it on the SharePoint and you work together. So start with an Excel file or start with Microsoft List, and then go to the compliance manager, search for a third-party tool like OneTrust, OTRIS, Audatis Manager, and all of this. There are a lot of tools outside. They also in the future can connect to the compliance manager. In the future, OneTrust are the first one, can connect to the compliance manager and can connect to the Microsoft Privacy Manager. Okay, so 1 hour away, let's have a shift and have a look into the tools. So we want to make a workthrough. In the first hour, we'll make a workthrough about contracts, rules, what is compliance, and the start of proceeding and working with compliance. And a hint from me that compliance is a very important topic in every IT project, and can cancel or kill the IT project if you don't fulfill the most important rules. So you have to prioritize. So for me at first is, and that is a good hint for me, the first is contracts. The second one is data classification. And yes, it will be not in the recording, but can you raise your hand if you or in your company you have a data classification? If you don't have a classification, don't raise your hand. So only when you have a data classification. 1, 2. Okay. And thank you very much. Please put 3. Okay, 3, 4. Okay, thank you very much. One more question. Out of my discussion also with my customers and also in my community, do you have a data classification that is in use? Then raise your hand, please. Not on a paper or on a website, so that is in use, so that you classify data today. Okay, waiting for the third one. Okay, this is a very funny result. We have 3 companies or three people. They have a data classification, and every one of these 3 are also this data classification in process, so in use. That's really cool. Often I have a result that from 20 people, 15 people have a data classification, but only 3 or 2 has a data classification which is in use. So for me, data after contracts, data classification is the way to use Office 365, to use Microsoft 365, to go here. And data classification, that's very interesting. Which classes, how do you can handle it? And when you have a look at Microsoft, you have these data classification point. You have an accelerator workshop from Microsoft. You have really cool Microsoft Learn data classification workshops. I can recommend these workshops because I know who created these workshops. So I was also a part of it. So you have to look at it. And at the beginning of it, you're starting with data classification with your customer, with the accelerator workshop, or in your company, or you start, okay, what can we do? And we have in Microsoft 365, and this is a work rule, we have 2 parts of data classification. You see it here in this overview. You have sensitive labels for data classification with Microsoft Information Protection in combination with access management and encryption, and watermark and metadata for classify these documents. On the other side, you have a second one, and these are retention labels. So you have 2 different labels in your, or two different options to classify your data, one with information protection and one with retention labels. Why we don't have only one? That's really clear, because when you have a look on your data in secure or high confidential, and you have a look on your data on a view from retention, which is how long you have to retain your invoice, and maybe your invoice is only internal, but you have to retain 6 years, and after 6 years you can delete this file. But for example, this invoice, in this process of paying the invoice, you have a legal case because your customer don't want to pay. Then you can't delete after 6 years. You have to restore this for 10 years. And but the data classification is internal. So you have for every document, you need 2 different labels, and you only can put 2 labels on it. So one sensitivity label and one retention label on a document. This is a very interesting information, because a lot of customers ask me, can we put 2 retention labels on a document? No, that's not possible. You have one sensitivity label and one retention label on every document, not on every document. So we have around 100 supported documents like doc, Excel files, PowerPoint files, in the future also CAD files. There's this connector for Autodesk, a third-party connector for Autodesk, all of this, PDFs, analysis will be handled. And the important thing is you have to learn you have 2 systems, sensitivity and retention. And these 2 systems are different. So let's start with information protection. When you start with information protection, you have to define labels, and you have to define label policies. Okay, we stay at the overview. You define labels, and in the market you see 3 different label systems. The first one is you see 2 labels, normal and secure. That's the easiest way to classify your data. So 90% or 95% are normal, or 90% are normal, and 10% are secure or confidential. So you have 2 labels. Second system is you have these, what do you see here, what I implement in the demo tenant. You have internal, secure, confidential, and public or private. So you have 4 or 5 labels, and so you have some sub-labels, for example, for departments, like you have internal and you have HR. So when you label a document which internal HR, only the HR department or the people in the HR department can open this document. So it's internal special for HR. On the other side, and this is the third option I see in the market, is you have around 60 labels with 10 sub-labels. So is it working? No. So you have a lot of labels. For example, in VW, in the car builder area, you have 35 labels for retention. You have 15 or 20 labels for information protection. So you have a lot of labels for a lot of different situations, but this is not optimal. And what I recommended is only 4 or 5 labels with some sub-labels, but not more, because your employees need to understand the labeling system, need to understand the different label system, information protection and retention, and need to handle it. And the best way is to use auto labeling with E5 to auto label, for example, a folder. This is new. With a PowerShell script, it's in preview currently. You can auto label a SharePoint folder or a OneDrive. You only need a PowerShell script with a label and the ID and the folder URL, and then you can label it. It's in preview, or you can use MCAS, or you can use the auto labeling functionality like trainable classifier, or auto labeling about sensitivity. And auto labeling works with information protection via the label policy. So you have to publish a label and create an auto labeling. The auto labeling one, and here you see the publishing. Okay, I publish a label to the whole company or to different ones. You see here I have published a lot of labels and testing and playing it, and I have a lot of labels too. And that's very interesting here, that you can create an auto labeling for every main part in the tenant, for example, SharePoint, mails, also your OneDrive and Teams. And you can filter and say, okay, I want to auto labeling only for a different container that's in preview in this moment, or you can use MCAS, or you can use, for example, a part of, it's not conditional access, it's rules when a file will be sent outside with DLP, for example, in combination. This file will be labeled with a confidential label and will be encrypted. So you see here, you have different labels. You have labels for container. This is the access way to a container, and also you can exclude guests. You can combine it with conditional access to. And the other side, you have file and mail. This is a typical information protection labeling system. And what I love is here, and what I discussed every time, is the discussion about encryption. So when you encrypt or you add an encryption to a label, it have also an access rule. So when it is encrypted, you have a template or a choose option who have access to this file and can open the file and handle a file, or can open an email and handle an email with Office Message encryption, for example. And the default one is the Microsoft key. The most of the data privacy officer says, no, Microsoft key is not good. What are the options to add another key? Yes, it's possible. You can add hold your own key solution. In the past, it was via RMS, but today it's only DKE, double key encryption. You need a PKI system from Thales, for example, or Entrust, or we have some in US. I'm only use Thales and Entrust. Or you can, for testing, you can create your own PKI system on a Windows server, and then you can bring your key to Microsoft. So Microsoft has a key and you have your key, and only when you have both keys, you can open the file. And yeah, is it a good solution, DKE, for every file in a tenant? No, it's only for 3 or 4% of the files which are high confidential, for example, as an example, confidential for executive board, because when you are using double key, it's only working on a Windows device, no, not on phones, not in web browser, only with the RIP client on a Windows device, and only with doc documents and all of this. So with the DKE solution, which every data privacy wants for every file, it's not working because it's technical. The technical implementation is not ready for it. It's only for files, and it's only working on a Windows system. So, and it don't work for search, for example. You can't search for these files, and optional services don't work, and all of this. So DKE is a very special hold your own key solution. But I talk a little bit about Bing services, all of this. What do you think when you use the Microsoft key, the default key? Is the translator option as an optional experience working with information protection? Raise your hand when you say yes. Don't raise your hand when you say no, it's not working. I don't know if you tested. Okay, it's usually does, yes, okay. Something that yes, okay. I tested it with DKE and also with Microsoft Key and all of this. When you use a label with an encryption Microsoft Key or DKE, the optional experience services don't work. The translation feature don't work. It's a granularity option to the GPO to close all the experience or the optional experience. You can use MIP with the encryption button or with the encryption functionality to stop using optional experience with this file. So that's very interesting that functionality like Bing Translator, which analyze the content, don't work when there's an encryption on a file. And yes, also with the Microsoft key, it don't work. So this is one of my favorite things that I say to the customers. Don't kill all of the optional services. Use Microsoft Information Protection with the key, and the confidential files you can't translate with Bing, with the Bing translator, and everything is fine. So what is the main thing? Data classification, data classification, data classification, and a good labeling system at the end, the back end. Any questions for this workthrough through Microsoft Information Protection? When you add, okay, please use the chat when you have a question. I have a good one more in this workthrough. When you have a label classification system with information labeling, when you have confidential with encryption, all of this, and you start also with the site in unified group one, and you have an Azure ID P1. You have a label which defined here, for example, SPO confidential. These are for my secure SharePoint sites. For these secure SharePoint sites, I have a label and created a label it's called SPO confidential. And then I have an Azure ID P1 licensing, and then I go to Teams. And this is really cool. I go to Teams, I go to the SharePoint site, I go to Yammer, I go to create a group. For everything is the same. I can implement a governance system with Microsoft Information Protection. So I start, and I see here, you can choose a label, and I can choose the SPO confidential label. And now you see, I can't create a public or an org-wide team. That's the same for SharePoint sites, the same for Yammer. So with a label and with the information protection label, you can control the governance in your tenant. So you don't need a third-party system. You need Microsoft 365 E5, or you need here IP Plan 1 with IP with Azure AD P1. And when you have it in combination with the SharePoint licenses, you can use it. And here, for example, I create only a private team. And what is really cool, I can connect this too with conditional access. So I can create really cool systems in the background that, for example, these special SharePoint site or these special group, and then open a group here that you can see where you could find the label, that you can create a secure SharePoint for high secure data with a container label, with conditional access in combination with DLP and Microsoft Information Protection confidential and, for example, DKE system. You have a really high secure SharePoint storage where you can store your data, and we use it also, for example, for due diligence processes. And the national authorities here said, okay, Germany is fine. You are so secure. You use your own key. You use customer key for the SharePoint site and all of this. You create a secure SharePoint site. And in Teams, you see the label SPO confidential. And this is the description what I type in. You have a container label, and this container means in this label SPO, in this team, you can't add guests. So you handle your guest access via a label. And this is what I give to you and in this workthrough. Use container labels to have a life cycle of a SharePoint site, to have a life cycle of a container, to have a life cycle of a Yammer site, to have a life cycle of Microsoft Teams. And you can use these to create life cycle because you can change these labels. And you can go to, I want to add a team. There must be the, yeah. And you can go here, as you see here. Teams with sensitive information must be private. This was my text. And you can switch here, for example, to open area or to personal or to secure or to internal HR, that you said, okay, with this label, I have a life cycle of a team. I have a life cycle of a SharePoint site in the background, because when I go back, and this is a workthrough, I go to the files part. And often I add the website tab with the file part. There's more information since here, because here you see only the retention labels and also only the sensitivity labels in the file tab of Microsoft Teams when you expand the SharePoint site. So I switch to the SharePoint site and I have a logic app which every time deploys the view in every team, so that you see the retention label and sensitivity label, but we are talking currently about the sensitivity label. You see it here. I make it bigger. Here you see it here. And see the sensitivity label on the document, and you see here the SPO confidential on these SharePoint sites. So yes, if you put a container label on the team, it will be also working for the SharePoint site in the team and also for private channels and for connected teams, connected for shared channels. So yes, I'm testing and working with shared channels since 6 or 8 months now, and this is very, very interesting that you can handle also the access and the container for private and also for shared channels with Microsoft Information Protection. This is really, really cool. And you said, okay, I want to have a private or connected SharePoint site with another label. That's possible. You can change your label. You don't need to change the Teams label. So you have different, you can have nested, a little bit of nesting in your Teams and in your SharePoint sites to handle it. And this is really, really cool. So this is also one of my, you don't need really big third-party tools. When you have it, that's fine, but you can use the information protection container labels to have a life cycle and to handle the access. And when I have a look here in these SPO confidential, for example, you see here description, you see, okay, what I do here, and go to, that's what I want to show you, group and sites. What also is possible nearby the files and emails and group and sites and Teams and Yammer. And in Yammer, there is no view of the label today. In the old UI it was, but in the new UI, they have trouble to see the label, but it's there. Hopefully in the next months with the new UI update in Yammer, we will see it. And the second one, I don't activate it here, is you can use your labels also in AWS, in SAP, SQL Server, in SQL Server, in Azure SQL Server, in Azure Synapse. And so S3 storage in AWS, that's why I use in my private tenant Purview also with this. So you have your labeling system also in other areas. But back to the container label. No files, I want also container. And we have here the privacy settings, out of the SharePoint Center or the OneDrive Center. You can say, okay, external, I missed the, here. Oh, no, it's right. External users, and as I let Microsoft Group owners add people outside of organization, no. So with this label, no external people will be added. This is very interesting. Note will be added. If you have guests before, you have to kill the guest out of the team, or kill the guest to delete the guest out of the team. And the second one is, and this is very, very cool, is the high access settings with Microsoft Information Protection. And here you see, for example, the classic ones is to allow full access from desktop app, mobile app, web, or block the access or in a limit on web access. So this is, and what I'm using very, very often now is these ones. You see here, UK, Indian, bring your own key, container label, SharePoint secure site. I created, this is for me, this is about connect a conditional access policy with your label. And this is for me a game changer because you can define conditional access with terms of use, which device, bring your own device scenarios, all of these MFA scenarios, all of this you can create it in a conditional access area in Azure. And then you connect it with this label, and it works with the label. So every time when you put a label on a site, the conditional access rules work. And this is, for me, this is a game changer. It's really, really cool. And I use it for, you see it here, for different areas like open areas, UK and Indian tests or SharePoint secure sites, to use all of the functionality from conditional access with a label on a SharePoint site and also on Teams and all of this. So this is really, really cool. Okay, you have this label system. I think I talked too much a little bit about information protection, but you see, I love this topic. And also, you have information governance, and this is the second part. This is the governance part. So you have retention policies and you have retention labels. Before we have these UI, you have also retention policies and tags in Exchange. You have it today, but it will be deleted in the next months. So this central stage for every information governance, retention, and deletion policies are here in the Microsoft 365 Compliance Center. And you see here, I tested a lot of it. And when you have a look here, we have label policies, retention policies. So label policies is you have a label, like the information protection label you can put on a file. It's only possible in the SharePoint side. I'm fight for it that we can use it also in the Windows Explorer and all of this, but it's not possible today. So you have to put it in a SharePoint site on a label. So you have to go here and go to details. And here you can put a retention label on a file. It's loading, loading, loading. Here it will come, here is it. And you can put a retention label on a file. And what you see here, there's not enough room for a lot of labels. So I have a customer 35 retention labels. You can sort it a little bit, but there's no group of retention labels all like this. So you have to work with these UI, or you can create your own UI with Microsoft Graph. That's also possible. So UI and retention labels need a little bit upgrade, but it's possible to put a label on a file or put a default label on a library. You need E3 only for this, and you can work with this. And the other part is you have retention policies. And with retention policies, you can add a label, for example, on a container on a SharePoint site, or you can also put a retention label, and we start with static, on for example, on a Teams chat, and also in this preview on a Yammer chat. So that is really cool. I use it for Yammer chats and for Teams chats or for Teams private, and also hopefully in the future for Teams Connect. We will see. It's not allowed to talk about it. We will see it in the future, and also for different Exchange mails, shared mailboxes, OneDrives, and all of this. So the most customers use it, for example, for OneDrive. So, and also for Exchange and public folders, and for the Teams chat, because it's the only option to use it for Teams chats, because it's not possible to put an information protection label or a retention label on a Teams chat or in a private chat. It's only to use a retention policy to handle a life cycle of a Teams chat. And for me, and this is also a game changer, because I go to adaptive scopes or the adaptive, because before you have the adaptive optionality that you can create groups which will be automatically handled a label and which will be added. And here's the user part, for example. So, and you can use it here for Teams chats in exchange of this. For example, you have here users from Netherlands, or you have users from Germany, and they have different retention policies. You can handle it with adaptive scope or adaptive policy scopes, or you can create also an adaptive scope, and I leave it here for country, for department, or you can create it for, and I opened it here for user, for SharePoint site, or for group. This is what I mean for a department, all of this. So you can create it so that only for these users in this area, the retention label will work. Or will handle the chat and all of this. This is really cool. And this is for me a game changer, because what we do today is when we go here and publish publish a label, for example, publish a label, you have filtering options, and these filtering options are not the best ones. So I start here and edit and go next. And yeah, for they have to leave. Bye-bye, and you can watch the recording to the end. And we go here, and you see, you go static, and choose the specification. So when you have the filtering option, you have the filtering option that you include and exclude mailboxes, SharePoint sites, and groups, and all of this. But this is limited. So we have a limit of 1,000 Exchange mailboxes and 100 SharePoint sites and 100 OneDrive. So you need, and create a PowerShell script for this. So I created 156 different publishing policies for retention labels. That was totally crazy for a worldwide company. And currently we said, okay, these limits are so limited, and Microsoft planned to raise the limits, but the filter limits, but it don't work. So the recommended from Microsoft is deploy for everyone in the company, in the tenant, or use now adaptive scope. For this, you need E5. Yeah, but then you have the optional to filter. You have a better options to filter it, and that is really cool. Out of this view. And the next one, and this is what I love too, is, and this is also new, is a policy lookup. So you can go here, and you don't need PowerShell anymore. You can go here, use a user, and you see all of the policies which are working on the user and which are working on the Exchange mailbox, which are working on Microsoft Teams, for example, Teams chats here, and which are working on OneDrive and OneDrive for Business. And here you can see also, which for me is an upgrade on policy lookup, that you see the rules. Which rule is the primary one, which overrules the other rules. So you have in retention policies a ruling system, for example, storing before deleting and all of this. I don't go too deep in this topic. And then you can use this policy lookup to see, okay, which rules are working for these users. Besides these governments, you have one more, and you need an E5 or Microsoft 365 add-on for it, and I jump to it, and I jump a little bit faster. And where it is, I'm looking for the record manager. Record manager. I overlook it. The record manager is E5 feature. In the future, in the past, it was E3 a part of it, but today it's only E5 or Microsoft 365 add-on. And with the record manager, you start to fulfill tax rules and tax law in Germany, for example, that a file is or will be, and we go to the file manager, had the record, and with this record, no one can change the metadata with a regulatory record, for example. And here you see, yes, it's a regulatory record. So we have different record options. And with the regulatory record options, you can freeze the metadata, you can freeze the file, you can freeze the file in this container. It's only an option to copy the file. It's not to move outside of the container of the SharePoint library, for example. And you can handle regulation side, GOBD in Germany is a tax regulation, or US tax regulation 70A4, and all of this in combination with this record and regulatory record. So it's really cool that Microsoft working more and more to use these options to fulfill more and more compliance rules. The other thing is you can add also events and dispositions with the E5 licensing and the record manager. Events means, I go to manage events. Wait, I go to manage events. You see here, yes. You go to manage events, and here you see that you can use, for example, here, what I have here, employee activity. I use it for a product. That's a lipstick product, or employee contracts and all of this, product lifetime. So you can handle an auto labeling and auto delete process, and this is really cool with events and event types. This is only possible when you have an E5. And the other one is when you have an E5, you have disposition options. So you can create a process with different decision stages if this file will be deleted. For me, typical use case are contracts, invoices, or for example, the material in the accounting team. That can be one of these use cases for dispositions. But here you have only a limit, or do you have a limit here for 1 million dispositions per stage in a tenant. So sometimes the limit is high, but not so high if you have an international company with more than 160,000 employees, and this limit is not very high. For a typical middle market company or KMU, that's fine. You can use dispositions, and for example, here you see here an example. Disposition means that another guy has to say yes, this file can be deleted. So you have a decision process in retention policies for SharePoint and OneDrive, and here disposition items. Hopefully, it will be loaded here. You can decide, or the decision maker can make a decision: yes, delete it, or retain for the next 6 years, or like this. So this is a part of the record manager. So in this part, we have information protection, we have information governance with retention policies, and we have with retention policies a record manager. With a record manager, you can fulfill more regulations, for example, most of the tax offices and all of this, and the tax regulations with these optionals and with these decisions, and you can make more processes like events, like for products and all of this, like the lipstick product, I tested it, and also for employee contracts that will be deleted after a period, or we have the disposition stages, which people can say, okay, delete this file, or delete this file also in the next 6 years or in the next 10 years, or never delete. So that is really cool. This is the start of compliance. And then the best thing is when you go forward with DLP, hopefully everyone, and that's, I don't want to talk very long about it, that you know what is DLP. DLP is the data loss prevention system in Microsoft 365. And this is, for example, a tool which you minimize your risk in data loss of personal data, for example. So I'm using data loss prevention. It's very cool in combination with information protection. So and also with endpoint DLP on your Windows device. And I use these policies, for example, you see my demo things, in combination with sensitive information types. So that the systems see a sheep of a file. For example, there's an ID card in it, or there's a Azure key in it, or there's special words in combination, or like this, or I see here GDPR regulations. And I said, okay, when you find these documents, for example, in a SharePoint library, in a Teams chat, or in OneDrive, then put a label on it. Or it's forbidden to post it in or to share it via mail to another tenant or to another email address, and all of this. So DLP policies working together with information protection and are the lovely tool of every data privacy officer, because you can create alerts, and you see the Activity Explorer, and you can prevent a loss of your sensitive and high sensitive data. So when I implement a data classification system, I implement at the same time Microsoft DLP. You can use it also in Teams. So that's really, really cool. It works in Teams, it works in SharePoint, it works in combination with the sharing link, it works with Exchange together. And you can set, for example, put in label and sensitivity label, for example, on a file when it's will be sent out, or you prevent sending out of a file or information. So that is really, really cool. That's a good combination of it. And the next step after information governance and protection, and the step after record management, this is a combination of tools. It's a good combination of tools. And then at the end, you have more cool E5 tools. When you have these basic settings, also the alert settings. So for me, I'm using MCAS, so Microsoft Cloud Apps, or I'm using the alert functionality here in the compliance center to create alerts. So for the basement configuration, I also use this. For example, if someone downloaded, where would I have it here, information governance, until volume of file deletion. Yeah, that's a good one. For example, we have an activity and I get alerts here, open alert page. I get alerts when someone deleted a lot of data. Then I get an alert and I can restore the data and said, okay, why he deleted so much data. That's very, very interesting because you can be hacked, for example, when someone deleted all the data. You have people, they canceled the contract with you and then started to download data, or you have insider, they download data. So download data is one of the, and you see here, I downloaded and deleted a lot of files. And I got a notification about it, so that's also a good thing. So I started also with data classification and then alert system. The better alert system is with Defender for Cloud Apps or MCAS, but in combination, or not but in combination, all of this, it was really, really cool that you be informed what happened in your environment. These alerts and also the warnings are based on what? Are based on the audit logs and are based also on the log files. And with audit and audit log files, you see here, you can search through the audit log files, you can put an alert on it and see, okay, here, for example, deletion on a second recycle bin, deletion for sensitivity, detected document with sensitivity mismatch, for example, with malware and all of this. This is what I like. And what I like too is that you can have, this is really 2 years around, 2 years, 1 to 2 years ago, that you can add when you have an Azure AD P2 plan. You can store these audit logs for 10 years. So normally it's 90 days, but you can create more and more retention rules and can say, okay, I store these audit logs for 10 years. These audit logs only for 90 days, these for 9 months, this for 1 month. So this is in combination also with security and security regulations, and also with retention regulations, that you can define different rules and edit different rules and edit these to the audit logs, so that you can store these in the Microsoft system and don't need to extract it, for example, or put these into Splunk and handle it in Splunk. You can handle it in Microsoft 365 Compliance Center and with data, audit logs, and all of this, and handle it in the Compliance Center. This is also announced on the last Ignite. You can handle more data in the Microsoft Compliance Center. And this is really cool. You have a lot of connectors. It started with 10. Now we have 70 connectors. You can connect, for example, healthcare, HR, you can Drive, Jira, WhatsApp. Where's WhatsApp? Slack, eDiscovery. So Twitter, for example. So that's really cool. You can connect your WebEx client, your WhatsApp. You can connect your workplace for Facebook, Twitter, and all of this with your Compliance Center, and use the Compliance Center tools to archive and to search via these third-party data. I know more and more companies, they use it, and they use, for example, the Twitter one and also the WhatsApp one to archive and to use the compliance tools to, and it's loading, to handle everything in the Compliance Center. So the idea of Microsoft is to rise up the Compliance Center and bring the Compliance Center not only for Microsoft 365, also for the whole workplace. So WhatsApp is a part of it, and it's really cool, or not, it's really cool. You can add it to a telephone number and add it to WhatsApp, and then everything will be archived in the Microsoft Compliance Center in the same area where your Compliance Center stored the rest of the data. For us, it's Netherlands, it's Amsterdam, and it's Dublin. And here you see you can connect it to a telemessage, and telemessage connected to WhatsApp. And these third-party contractor or subcontractor handle it for you. Then you can store WhatsApp messages, pictures, voice messages, and all of this in the Compliance Center, and can use the Compliance Center tools to have a look at it. And one of these tools to have a look at it is communication compliance. very interesting discussion with Working Council and data privacy, but communication compliance. I have 2 finance institutes worldwide. They are using these compliance rules, and that is really cool. They're using these compliance rules to control, the communication on not every communication, but some parts of the communication. For example, 10%. If the employees, for example, have a bad speech, giving bad information to the other guys, or said Raphael is an asshole or whatever, as an example, they're using it to control it. And on the other side, they're using it, for example, for a finance regulation. You have a finance regulation that you can't consult, for example, a company and handle with the Aktienportfolio. What it means in English, with the portfolio of the company on the Frankfurt, in Frankfurt, for example, on the Börse. I don't know the English now, but hopefully you know what I mean. And with this communication compliance, you can say, okay, I have this control system that these people don't talk to each other, or don't talk about these topics to each other. So you can filter, you create your own policies, and you add words, for example, text, images, and all of this. But the control is, and this is the limit, you only can control images and text. And text, and text, for example, also in Microsoft Teams, text chats, also chat messages. When you activate the transcription, yes, then you can also detect and have a view at Microsoft Teams too. But what is the limit? No speech, no voice today. So if you said Raphael is an asshole, don't use the chat, don't use email, make a Teams phone call and said you are an asshole. That's possible to overcome the communication compliance services, or to overrule it, or to find a way that your company don't know that you said bad things to other guys. But that's very interesting. Microsoft is working on it. So it's working on it that also voice and telephone calls will be also controlled by communication compliance. For me, yes, it's a very cool tool. You have to communicate to your customers, to your FTEs and to your employees, that it will be controlled. In Germany, I don't know a lot of companies, but in Europe and worldwide, I know, for example, insurance companies and also finance companies, and we have some auto car builder for some departments. They use the tool, and the tool is in combination with the insider risk tool. The insider risk tool is to find the insider. And when you have the statistics, and I can talk about insider risk 2 weeks, when you have a look at the statistics, you see the bad guys to 80% comes out of your company. So guys in your company send information to the competitor in the market, for example. And this, before Microsoft created the insider risk management, before we have communication compliance, all of this, I have a lot of these cases. A company called me and said, Raphael, I know our competitor knows all of our price sheets. And they knows the price sheets 1 minute after we announce it internally, or we send it via email internally. And we found out that one of the guys created a Power workflow, or a Power automate workflow, to send the email attachments to Google Drive, and the competitor have access to the Google Drive. So some of these very cool tools like Power Automate, like the option that the employees can digitalize and create their own workplace, has risks. And with communication compliance and insider risk, you can minimize this risk because you can control it. And insider risk, I talked about, you create a warning and you create a notification for he's downloading a lot of files. And with insider risk management, it's an E5 feature. And yes, for everyone who use it and everyone who administrate it, you can create really cool policies like there's a bad FTE, or they're sending mails, or you can create a policy, there's a data leaks, or there's a data thief. Data thief, for example, the guy who cancels the contract and download everything of the files. you can create here a policy. And what is really, really interesting, you can connect it with your HR tool so that the policy will be created automatically. And we have two new policies, the security policy evaluation that's in preview and the health record misuse. And that's really cool that insider risk is one of the focus topics at Microsoft in this financial year and also in the next financial year. And it's combined with the Defender for Endpoint, it's combined with DLP, it's combined with data classification, it's combined with sensitivity labeling, and combines all of these tools to find the insider, the bad insider in your company, who's playing a bad game and who's playing a bad game with your company, and also is playing a bad game with your customers. And with these tools, you have the chance to find these guys and to cancel and to create these policies to find all of these guys. Normally, now we have a big discussion about communication compliance and insider risk. I told you a little bit about the use cases. I told you a little bit how we use it, and I told you a little bit about how it works and what is in the background of these tools. Confirm, yeah, I want to cancel. I hope this is very interesting because we have some more of these compliance tools, and I have two more, and I think that's okay for this time period. I have some more, and this is the information barriers, and this is what I want to show to you. It was in preview, and it's in public preview, but now it is also, and it was a private preview, now it is a public preview. And information barriers is very interesting. Information barriers is an option to have a single tenant and to separate departments from each other. For example, Department A from Department B, but Department A can talk with Department C. That's very interesting. It's created for financial sector in Switzerland. And now information barriers is more and more interesting for more and more companies in Europe and also worldwide. So I talked to insurance companies, also to finance in the finance industry. That's very, very interesting, and also to health sector that want to separate departments from each other. And information barriers is a hard separate. So you can't invite this guy to a Teams call. If the guy is has an account and the account is logged into Teams, he can't come in the Teams meeting. That's really interesting. You can't see her calendar or his calendar. You have a hard barrier between departments, between the people in the departments. And yes, for finance, we talked about finance and banks and bank institutes. And yes, that is the primary use case, but more and more, for example, in the edu sector, using information barriers to split the teachers from the students sometimes, or to split the administration from the students and teachers. And we have a lot of more and more interesting options in a single tenant solution with information barriers to separate segments or to separate departments from every departments or groups from each other, so that they can't work together, that they can share information, that they can have Teams meetings together and all of this. So this is very, very interesting. But here also you needed E5 for every user and also for the administration. One more, and this is more and more interesting. Microsoft starts with privacy management. It's called today Previa Privacy Risk Management. Before, it was preview and it called privacy management, and it was a part of enterprise licensing. Then Microsoft decided last week, 2 weeks before, now it called preview. Before, in the preview part and then the fast parts of the preview, we have privacy management and subject requests, right requests. It was one product with one licensing, and it works with a typical enterprise licensing. But now it is previa. What one sentence to here? What is subject right management? That is a GDPR case. For example, an employee has ask the company how you proceed my personal data, where you proceed my personal data. This is how to handle and administrate these cases. And the other one is the privacy management overview. And when I go here, I don't want to buy it, okay, but I go to data profiles. I hopefully, oh, I can't see it. My trial is over in this test tenant. What you can do with privacy management is your data privacy officer friend or compliance friend. You can create data profiles. For example, please send me a notification when personal data will be sent from Germany to USA. When you have a multi-tenant environment, please send me a notification. Please forbid, please prevent all of these, and these are the policies. And you have data profiles that you have personal data in your company. So at the end, Preview is like insider risk. Preview based on data classification, based on sensitivity information types. So you can buy it, I think $140 now per month. It's expensive today. Or you can create your own privacy management when you create sensitivity rules, data classification rules, all of this. So the Preview risk management today is the easiest, it's the easier way to have the same result at the end. But what I like is this is Preview today. Preview in the future will be a risk management system for Microsoft 365 for personal data to fulfill GDPR regulations better than today. And it's really cool when you Google it a bit and have a look on Reddit, you see that OneTrust will be connected to Preview. So you can handle all of your compliance with OneTrust. You can add data privacy information. You can give information to your attendees, all of this, and connected it also with Preview and the risk management. So you have the OneTrust and the Microsoft the OneTrust system and the Microsoft system working hand in hand. And OneTrust was the first company that will be announced. There will be more and more companies announced, so that we have a data privacy risk, really data privacy risk management with tools, with policies, with actions that forbid to transfer data into USA, for example, and all of this in Microsoft 365. So the future of compliance is communication compliance, insider risk, and Preview risk management, and Preview parts and all of this. So basement of compliance and fulfill the rules is warnings, alerts, and all of this, data classification, data governance, data information protection, and audit and audit logs. The future is information protection, communication compliance, and your legal team love eDiscovery. If you have a legal case, if you get a warning, you can create cases in eDiscovery, and in these cases, you can, for example, have here David, or in Yammer, or I have a case test for Teams chats. You can search, you can collect, you can create copies into a database for eDiscovery. And here you can create collections, review sets, and you can check the communication. So for example, in Teams, and here review sets, you see it here, we have Teams chats, and I can review these Teams chats. And that's really cool that I can find, for example, these special Teams chats where someone says Raphael is an asshole, or share bad information via a Teams chat. Then I can take it. If it will be deleted when it's in a eDiscovery case. No retention policy will work, so the user deleted it. But here in this case, I can find all of this information, and then I can take this information, for example, go to the employer and say, here, that is what you write. That's not good. You have to leave the company, for example, of this, or you have special legal cases with eDiscovery. You can do it. I think eDiscovery is also one of these great topics for a single meetup to talk about eDiscovery and how you handle eDiscovery of this. In these workthrough only eDiscovery, yes, this is a tool for your legal team. This is a tool when you have a legal case to extract data, to extract Teams chats, all of this. And the coolest one is you don't need advanced one for Teams now. It's also possible in the core functionality. Advanced is E5, core is E3, for example, or business one. So Teams chats are also in the core system today. So yeah, eDiscovery is a great tool, but don't use eDiscovery to retain data. So eDiscovery is not a retention tool. Retention is the information governance functionality, because yeah, you can retain via cases, but to handle it, and it's not business ready to make a retention via eDiscovery. That called legal hold. In the future, you do it to fulfill tax regulations, but today use record management with information governance instead of eDiscovery. So I can talk about more and more tools, but the most of the tools I show you in this area, in this session also, and talked about EU governance and boundary tools and all of this. And yes, it is a lot of information. And it was a lot of information in 2 hours. And I thank you for recording, so you can go back and heard the part one more. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. I use these tools every day, implement it to customers, and also use it in different use cases, like the financial use case with communication compliance. This is not the typical use case for communication compliance. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask. And thank you, Kenneth.
Thank you. And I have the feeling that you can go on for 16 hours on
Yeah,
this topic. Yeah.
correct.
So,
Correct.
yeah, it really interesting, and you showed some has some really nice aspects of maybe some certain things that most IT pros don't cover in a day-to-day basis. So that was actually quite interesting. As you have seen, some people actually had to go, but we'll make sure that if they have questions, that they can reach out to you via social media, because everyone can find you over there.
All fine.
So what I want to propose is that I actually wrap up for today. I have a few slides left, so if you give me a moment, here we go. So thanks everyone for joining. Our next live Ask Us Anything is in 2 weeks with Sven Antonissen about Teams calling and how to deploy and secure it. Further on, of course, thanks to our sponsors, but last but not least, a big thanks to you, Raphael, and taking the time to present for our user group. We do expect to have the recording up tomorrow on our YouTube channel. And if you have any questions for Raphael, reach out to us, or you can contact him directly on this very interesting topic. So thanks for taking the time, Raphael.
Thank you, and I will join you in the next user group. That's a very great user group and awesome.
Yeah, cool.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.